In this video, we'll be comparing 3 different ways of getting biological hydrogen into the body and finding out whether their performance matches their claims. We'll also be seeing whether there are any alternative ways of ingesting hydrogen. Let's start with the 2 hydrogen water bottles we're going to be comparing, from Q-Life and from Cellpower. For both of these 2 companies, I tested 2 separate identical bottles, and in both cases, the second bottle performed exactly the same as the first. I made sure that the bottles had been primed and prepared as per the manufacturer's instructions, and had been used for some time before testing, so they'd been bedded in so the results would be more reliable. Hydrogen water is typically measured in parts per million, or ppm. Anything more than 1 ppm is generally considered to be an okay therapeutic dose. Most types of water, like tap water, filtered water, bottled water, will have no hydrogen in it at all. And that's where the bottles come in to try to infuse hydrogen into the water. We'll be using these reagent drops called H2 Blue, which are generally considered to be a really reputable way of testing for hydrogen in water in these cases. The way we test is to add 6 milliliters of water to a test tube after it's been treated by the bottle, and then to add 1 drop at a time of the H2 Blue to see if it absorbs into the water. If it does, and the water goes back to being clear, we know that there's another 0.1 part per million of hydrogen in the water, in addition to what's already been absorbed. If it remains blue and doesn't go clear, we found the limit and we know how much hydrogen there is. So let's start with Q-Life, a company that I believe is based in the Philippines. Their flagship Q-Life Max bottle costs $359 US plus shipping and any local taxes, but it's often on sale for less. It claims a very impressive 3 to 5 parts per million of hydrogen in the water it produces. It's a simple looking bottle, easy to carry around, and takes 5 minutes to complete a cycle. So let's see how it does when tested with the drops. The first drop gets absorbed and the water goes clear again. Same with the second drop. But it looks like the third drop is really struggling and actually doesn't get absorbed. According to the H2 Blue instructions, we count the final drop in the total, so we get a final reading of 0.3 parts per million, which is disappointingly only about 1/10 of what they claim. So let's switch to Cellpower. They're based in Portugal, where their products are shipped from, and their bottle costs a little over 500 euros plus shipping and taxes. They don't seem to make any public claim about the potency of the water from their bottles, but when I inquired, they told me that 1.2 to 1.4 parts per million would be typical, which sounds more realistic, and that the potency might increase with use. This bottle is more expensive, but looks a lot more premium. A cycle takes 3 minutes, and there's also a 6-minute option and a 9-minute option, which we're advised to use with caution. Cellpower can also be used with boiling water, but make sure to follow their instructions carefully. So let's see how it goes with the testing. The first drop itself is struggling to get absorbed, and the water is staying blue, showing that there's pretty much no hydrogen in the water. That's a really disappointing result too. These issues are not unique to Cellpower or Q-Life. These are just the 2 I tested because they're the 2 I bought for my own use. But I have heard stories of other people testing their own bottles from other companies and getting very, very similar results. Manufacturers might have their own testing certificates showing that they've achieved higher concentrations of hydrogen, but these are often not, for whatever reason, replicated by consumers' own testing. Interestingly, both of the bottles did seem to make a difference to me initially when I started using them. The water did seem to go down much more smoothly and easily than when I wasn't using them, but over not very much time, they did seem to lose this quality. What a lot of these manufacturers don't tell you up front, at least not prominently enough for you to notice, is that they work much better with ultra-purified water and are best avoided for tap and mineral water where they don't make as much difference and may exert a lot of wear and tear on the mechanisms. To be fair to them, both companies did give me a refund in the end, minus an administrative charge, but this did require quite a lot of persistence. Cellpower, for example, required me to test it with distilled water. So I went through a painstaking process of distilling my own water and ended up with the same results anyway. And then they sent me a return label so that I could return it and they could test it for themselves, which they did, and they told me it worked perfectly well. And I had to persist again a few more times before I got the refund. QLife simply ignored my emails altogether for several weeks, and I needed to follow up several times to get any sort of response. They did give me a refund minus 15% because the bottles weren't in their original box. The way I currently get my hydrogen is with these Hydrotab dissolvable capsules. You drop one into a cup of water or a small jug and give them a couple of minutes to diffuse. I tend to use a larger quantity of water to increase my water intake and also so that the hydrogen concentration is more diffused. As these tablets are single use, there's no risk that they'll lose their potency over time, as seems to happen with the water bottles. Hydrotab claims that in a glass of water, you get up to 10 parts per million of hydrogen, which is 6 or 7 times any reasonable claim by a bottle manufacturer, and that's if the bottles actually work. On the downside though, there's no way of reliably testing these claims. Both Hydrotab and H2 Blue say that the technology used in these sorts of products can't be reliably tested with the H2 Blue drops. And that's a shame because it means we can't be sure that they deliver as promised. And it's likely, as with the bottles, that they perform much better with very purified or distilled water than they do with the types of water that we're more likely to be using them with. In my own case, I feel most comfortable using these as opposed to the bottles for my hydrogen at the moment, though I'm always open to looking at better options. I take 1 tablet a day in about half a litre of water, which, if the claims are right, would be equivalent to 8 or more glasses of hydrogen water at a decent therapeutic dose. I do find that the water goes down much more easily when I use these, and there's a lightness to it and a slightly improved taste too. Before making this video, I was talking to a health store owner who told me that he felt that even 10 parts per million seemed quite low. I was surprised by this because it seemed really at the high end of anything I'd found, but he introduced me to a product called NADH, which I'd not heard of before, and which uses a different method of getting biological hydrogen into the body. It claims that it's hundreds of times more potent than the bottles claim to be. There are many testimonials that talk of immediate and dramatic transformations that people get from taking this, especially in moments of critical need. So I had to try it for myself, of course. It's hard for me to resist new and interesting things like this. And I took it at quite a high dose, both in the sublingual variety, which gets straight into the bloodstream, and in the timed release version, but without any noticeable difference, unfortunately. It might be that the only real noticeable difference happens when the body is in desperate need of it. So I'm keeping the rest of my packets for a time when it might be necessary in the future. I'm sure it would probably do me a lot of good in a preventative way, but it's a lot more expensive than any of the other options, and Hydrotab seems to be the best fit for me at the moment. Both Hydrotab and NADH are available at the Heartful Healing shop, with a 10% discount on the NADH using our link. If you really want to try the bottles, even after hearing about my experience of them, there are some links to find them on the hydrogen water page of the website. At Heartful Healing, we work with clients all over the world to help them live the sorts of lives they truly want to lead. To find out more about the healing services we offer, please visit heartfulhealing.co.uk.
Heartful Healing mainly because I had issues with self-esteem, anxiety. I tried counselling, I tried all different types of therapy, and they weren't working. And I was kind of ready to give up. And then I came across Heartful Healing and kind of clicked almost. And I was skeptical at first, and and then I experienced my first session, and it was like instant. I felt like results like from the first session.
How had you changed by the end of them?
I felt like happier, healthier. I felt like I could be more myself. I could express myself with my friends and with other people a lot easier, and I came across a lot more calm around situations. My anxiety took a dip, especially through my exams. Even from the moment the guy connects to you, you feel like the weight is starting to lift and you feel like you're healing yourself from the inside out, and it feels amazing.